many shrimp. I got iodine partners.
My bitch a choosy lover, never fuck without a rubber. Never in the streets like it on top of the cover. Money on the dresser, drive a compressor. Top notch hoes, get the most, not the lesser. Trash like the buck for $40 in the club. Fucking up the game, bitch, it gets no love. She be cross country, giving all that she got. 1,000 a pop, I'm pulling business off the lot. I smashed up the gray one, bought me a red. Every time we hit the parking lot, we turn head. Some hoes wanna choose, but them bitches too scary. Your bitch chose me, you ain't a pimp, you a fairy.
A pimp, not a simp. A pimp, not a simp. A pimp, not a simp. We eat so many shrimp. I got iodine partners.
Baby, you been rolling solo, time to get down with the team. The grass is greener on that other side, if you know what I mean. I show you shit you never seen, the 7 wonders of the world. And I can make you the 8th if you wanna be my girl. I say my girl, I don't mean my woman, that ain't my style. Need a real street stalker, walk a green mile. Piling up the paper on the dining room table, cause you able to realize I'm the truth and not a fable. Baby, rockin' Russian sable, keep that chiller on the rack. What I look like with some $1,000 shit up on my back. I'm $1 million man, they need $1 billion bitch. Put my pimpin' in your life, watch your daddy get rich. Easy as ABC, simple as 1, 2, 3. Get down with UGK, Pimp CBU with B. Cause what's a hoe with no pimp, and what's a pimp with no hoe? Don't be a lame, you know the game and how it goes. We try to get toes.
A pimp, not a simp. A pimp, not a simp. A pimp, not a simp. We eat so many shrimp. I got iodine partners.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope you're having a good night. Thanks for joining in tonight for this evening's show. I wanted to play some games tonight, but I still have not figured out the bug for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, so here we are. It's an interesting one. It's one video from Rise of the Moors. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this guy, Jamal, and his militia. But he posted a video on the 29th of December that was seemingly, with the title that was seemingly harmless enough. Intro to Jurisdiction. You know how Moors are when it comes to jurisdiction. But he then kind of delves into what my title head is about. This guy he's saying but not saying that he wants to separate his Moorish nation from the United States, and he wants to use force to do it. Or at the very least, use force to ensure it, I guess is the best way of saying it. So, without further ado, let's get this show on the road. And it's an hour long, but I'll be skipping ahead in a few parts where I think it's kind of boring and everything like that.
S'mores.
Peace. You said s'mores.
Okay, peanut gallery.
You always want an audience, right? You always want the person you talk to.
Oh yeah, so let me place you then. This, it's a hip pocket class. If you were a Marine, you already know what it is.
Always vertical.
It's a hip pocket class. This is the
Tonight's beer is something I've never tried before, by the way. It's Hell or High Mango. Hell or High Mango. So this will be interesting.
introduction to jurisdiction. The point of this class is basically for you to have a deeper comprehension on what not only the word jurisdiction means, but its implications.
The 21st Amendment Brewery. I love that name already.
And applications in reality. So first we're just going to deal with the word itself using etymology, huh?
I said, whoa.
You like that, huh? CMOS. You like that, huh, baby girl? All right, so we're going to deal with the word jurisdiction, dealing with etymology. Basically, the word jurisdiction is a compound word, and it's Latin. The word juris means right or positive, and the word diction means words. So the word jurisdiction is literal meaning means right
I think
words,
it's a different dude, Devin.
correct words, or positive words. That's what jurisdiction means. Its application is basically an individual or group's capacity or incapacity to have a decision on a matter, have an opinion on a matter, and or to act or do something. That's jurisdiction.
I'll buy that. He's mostly correct in that. Yeah.
An example of jurisdiction, and of course, I think what was my other video on jurisprudence, right? Right. Jurisdiction is jurisprudence in action, basically, if that makes sense. So here's an example of jurisprudence, right? The people are sovereign, or the people have all the power. So since we're dealing with scales, right? When you're dealing with the 7 hermetic principles, everything is no
Woo, I'm gonna skip through the woo shit.
moment into the macro, right? Macro example, lives in about 100 senators, but the U.S. population is in the millions. Why? Because it's
And he decides to give a brief civics lesson, which okay, fine,
just
sure.
easier to get things accomplished when there's a smaller amount of people. But to make that fair, the people decided in the Constitution that, according to population, each state would have X amount of representatives. And then regardless of population, each state would have X amount of senators. So that way there's some type of balance.
Well, the Senate is there to be representative of the state as a sovereign entity alongside the House of Representatives, which is intended to represent the people of the several states.
And everyone has a fair say, right? So that's an example.
But he's correct in that the House is proportional to the number of people within the states and can change every 10 years.
Of the people having the power.
Yada, yada, yada. The senators are fixed at 2.
Now, jurisdiction is where the people stated that, okay,
I don't know which one you're talking about, P. Rhymes.
legislative body called the House and the Senate have the duties and responsibilities of X, Y, and Z. So the people who have all the power delegated or prescribed a jurisdiction to the legislative body of the United States. That's on the federal level, right? It's the same thing on the state level and the municipal level. Whereas, as an example, in the state of Rhode Island, the people, via their constitution, which is the Constitution for the state of Rhode Island, Providence Plantations, established a General Assembly. That General Assembly is similar to the Congress of the United States, whereas there's a House and there's a Senate, and that is the General Assembly or the legislator of the state of Rhode Island, and they have specific duties that are prescribed to them by the Constitution. Same thing on a city or municipal level.
That's funny, Kat. I actually feel like I do that too. When I'm thinking or trying to recall, something in my head, I tend to look up when I'm like searching, the back of my mind for something.
The legislative body of a city is called the city council.
Right.
They are the legislator for the city. So
Again, basic civics. Thank you very much.
I'll give another example. The original 13 colonies of the European Union, known as the United States, doing business on North America.
So yeah, that's the first big what that came out of my mouth in this entire video. European Union doing business in North America. Oh, all right.
Agreed that all had an equal say in the Constitution within their individual state capacity.
And for the record, that's not my smoke detector. It's his smoke detector, not mine. I made sure I don't get that beeping noise.
Stated that agreement will govern all of them. They said that if any issues shall arise amongst the states, so if there's an issue between a citizen of the state of the colony of Rhode Island and the colony of Massachusetts, federal courts shall litigate between those two disputing parties. That's an example of delegated authority. And
you're describing Article 3, and Article 3 does set the jurisdiction of of the federal courts.
Jurisdiction. So if there's an issue between a citizen
All right, sorry about that, Nathan.
of Massachusetts or the colony of Massachusetts and a citizen of the state of Rhode Island, the individual states don't have jurisdiction because there's no form of impartiality. Because of course, if you're a citizen of my state, I'm going to be on your side. And of course, if I know you, you know we're in the same area, I'm going to be on your side, right? So to avoid that, to have impartiality, they created the federal judicial branch, right? So now if a citizen of Massachusetts and a citizen of Rhode Island have a dispute, they wouldn't go to the Rhode Island court. They wouldn't go to the Massachusetts court. They would go to federal court.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Thank you for describing. He's talking about the diversity jurisdiction, or I forget what it's called specifically, but it's diversity. That, you know, in federal court, you either have to have federal diversity jurisdiction, or the matter has to be greater than $75,000, unless that's changed.
Another example. Within every state of the European Union, known as the United States doing business on North America, which consists of pale-skinned Europeans and their Negro slaves, they stated within the Constitution that they have family courts. So family courts have the jurisdiction to deal with family issues. So if it's a custody battle between parents, their district courts have jurisdiction over that. Now, a family wouldn't go to federal court to handle that because the people already agreed the state has jurisdiction to handle that. Because one, the state is the uninterested third party, or the judge would be, which was appointed by the state, which is the people. So the people appointed a judge.
Again, basic civics going on here.
Right. It was already prescribed in the state constitution that family court, same way a criminal court wouldn't hear civil issues because that's powers prescribed to them. Because see the case law or the res judicata that states that courts cannot go beyond the judicial powers prescribed to them. Because that's not their job. That's not in their job description. The Constitution says this is your job. Your job is to handle, as an
Okay, again, right now he's mostly getting it right in terms of the bare bone basics of subject matter jurisdiction and federal jurisdiction. So far, yeah, they're a little nutty with the European Union thing, but I promise you it kind of goes downhill in about 2 minutes.
For example, the criminal courts, your job is to handle criminal issues. You don't handle family court. You don't handle civil issues. That's what those courts are for. Right? So that's jurisdiction. The ability, the capacity or incapacity to hear, act, or do something. Any questions on that so far?
Uh-huh. I know Pure Rhymes.
All right, cool,
He live streamed this, so there's a little bit of dead air as he's reading the chat.
So now, I was asked to do this class for our family in what we call Africa today, because, our family, our Algerian family, which y'all call islanders, which the word Algiers means the islands, so they're Algerians. The so-called Caribbean or West Indian Moors, which they're not Indians. A lot of our people, all of us have been taught, the so-called South Americans, Central Americans, and the islanders have been taught that if you want to come to North America, you have to get citizenship from the United States.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about when it comes to the Algiers, meaning the islands. What's up, John?
Now, everything that the United States does since 1862 has been in a de facto status.
Everything that the United States has done since 1862 has been in a de facto status.
Excuse me.
What's up, Lynette?
The word de facto does not imply something negative. It just means they've done it in fact, which means they don't have the right to do it. They just have been doing it.
Okay.
You know, so as an example, if
I'm going to skip his analogy because it's kind of asinine, and I'll give you guys a cleaner analogy of what the difference is between de facto and de jure. The de facto language of the United States is English, but it is not the de jure language. In other words, there is nothing in our law, in federal law, that says that the United States, that the official language of the United States is English, or that all government forms have to be written in English. However, in de facto terms, the default language that is predominantly spoken by people here in the United States and the default language that is on official government forms is English. Ergo, it is the de facto language of the United States, but not the official language of the United States.
if you're a teacher, let's say you're a teacher's assistant, right? To do isn't bad, you know, and that's just the truth. A lot of Moors teach more science as if everything they do is bad. There are actual criminals on.
It's always to do with the Civil War, Devin. Every time they mention 1861, 1862, 1864, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the sovereign citizen ideology origins will always start with the Civil War.
On the streets today. Killing people, robbing people, shooting people in the face, all this bad stuff that they're doing. Us Moors don't have a court.
True.
So if someone does something and a family is seeking justice and we don't have shit established and the United States does, guess who they're going to go to? The United States. Is that bad? No. But anyway, so most people have been taught that in order to come to North America, which is not the United States, North America is not the United States, North America is...
I don't think... Well, I'd like to think that most people understand that the United States is not North America. The United States is in North America. North America is the geographic and political continent of which the United States is in, but the United States does not comprise all of North America. I think Mexico and Canada get pissed off at us even more so if we started saying that. So I don't think anybody's making that argument.
not Canada. North America is North America.
North America is the geographic and political continent that is north of the equator and, you know, put on the geographic coordinates and sort of, et cetera, et cetera.
But the occupying forces or the occupying people on North America have been identifying as the United States.
And Canada and the occupying people is the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And yeah.
They are Europeans here on American soil. They've colonized North American soil and via...
This is okay, now we're getting into the same argument that Canaan Land Moors tried to have with me last week.
the power of this.
And they got mad when I said that as the conquerors, the colonies that eventually became the United States, you know, have the recognition of being the sovereign entity in control of this region.
Said,
And they didn't like that very much.
if you want to come here to North America, you have to be part of our organization known as the United States. So you have to be a U.S. citizen.
Well, no. I mean, if you want to move here, on a permanent basis, you don't even need to be a U.S. citizen. You can be a permanent legal permanent resident. So no, you don't need to be a citizen in order to live in the United States permanently.
That's what everybody's taught. The United States has no jurisdiction to make those statements.
Yeah, it does.
They have no de jure jurisdiction.
Yeah, it does.
So they have no powers that's been granted to them by the people to do that. They've only been doing it because they have force of arms. Right? So that's the difference between de jure and de facto. They've been doing it in a de facto capacity. The people have not given them
You saying "nuh-uh" is not really an argument.
given them permission to do so. Also, if you look up the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo
I don't know why he's citing that.
of 1848, if I'm not
That is the treaty that ended the Mexican-American War.
mistaken, it states that you'll see that the entire West Coast, so basically from Central North America west, was all Mexico. The United States acquired that territory via war, but in the treaty it stated that Mexicans have rights to be there.
I imagine, I haven't read the treaty. If I did, it's been a long time, but I imagine it's what it said is that those Mexicans who are residing in the territory that it will now be part of the United States can still remain there. I imagine that's what part of the treaty he's talking about.
But since 1868, they lied and said that the 14th Amendment was created,
What?
which is what they're basing their naturalization laws or their citizenship laws off of, which is now forcing people to be part of the European Union, which is really just the feudal system about homage and fealty. But
Feudal. Wait. The EU homage of feudal system of homage and fealty. Wait, is he? So he's saying that the United States is a feudal society?
I'm not trying to go into all of that. You just look those things up. I'm gonna try to keep it brief and then try to expand on certain things just so you can understand what I'm trying to say. So there's been a few Moors that have asked me, so how, as Moors, how do we get our family?
No, he's not saying. He's literally considering the United States or the various states as part of not the EU as we know it, but of a European Union that just simply resides or is in control of North America. He's not saying that that the United States is literally part of that European Union. Because again, he just like Canaan land Moors consider anybody of European descent to be foreigners, like they're just foreign invaders on the land. He doesn't believe, and he'll say it straight up, that he doesn't acknowledge anything close to birthright citizenship.
From the islands in South America and Central America, how do we get them over here? And the honest truth is we can't, because we don't have the jurisdiction to do it, because we have a de facto occupying force not allowing us to do it via the force of arms. So we have the natural right to say, yes, our people can come here without having to go through the United States. But then there's going to be physical people with physical guns that's going to arrest them and bring them to jail. That's what they do. So until we can get that part out of the way, then we can bring our people from South America to North America without having to smuggle them in. And
now here's what I want to know. How exactly are you planning on getting those people or getting them out of the way? And you'll probably expand on that a little bit.
All this crap and, have them on a boat for days and weeks and months, and have them in the desert for days and weeks and months. We can actually do it. Okay, come to our safe ports that are safe. We have our Moorish ships protecting these travel routes to get here, so that way no outside European force is, pointing their guns at your children's face and arresting you, and now they're separating the children and the families, and you're going to jail. We need to stop that. We can't just say, oh yeah, we're Moors, hominis dominus, Islamism, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and then we can say hominis dominus, come here. No, people are suffering right now. But anyway, to help, to try to assist this much, look up the proceedings.
And here we go. Here we go. This will be fun, y'all. And this is where he becomes either he's this much of an idiot and can't read and can't understand what he's reading, or he's being actually actively deceptive to his audience. So get ready for this shit. While I get another drink.
So let me just write this down or whatever. Start recording, screen record. I don't care. Write it down. Listen to what I'm about to say. Write this down. The proceedings and debates of the 90th Congress, first session, volume 113, part 12, June 12th, 1967, page 15641 of the Congressional Record. You will see that in 1967, stop Bear, the 90th Congress of the United States of America admitted that the 14th Amendment was never ratified. So
that is a goddamn lie. It is a fucking lie. Either he is lying or he does not understand what he's reading. And so I go here and I found this. Didn't take me too long. Exactly what he was looking for. Congressional Record, Proceedings and Debates of the 90th Congress, First Session, Volume 113, Part 12, June 12, 1967. Pages 15641. What he's citing is a speech or a comment or a statement from one member of the House in 1967 who complains that the 14th Amendment was not properly enacted or was not properly ratified. And then he goes on to cite a judge who made this claim, a judge in Louisiana who made this claim, and he put on the record the arguments put forth on why the 14th Amendment was not properly ratified. This is a statement. It's not a law. It's not a declaration by Congress. It's not a resolution by Congress. It's not a bill, not even a bill that anybody passed. It is, although this guy would eventually propose a resolution that didn't go anywhere to declare that the 14th Amendment was unconstitutional. But it's just a statement by one member of the House. And he thinks that it was a declaration by Congress, a binding declaration of Congress. And for those who want to know, this is the guy who did it, who passed it. John Rarick of Louisiana. In 1980, he sought the presidency as a nominee of the former American Independent Party, founded in 1968 by George C. Wallace of Alabama. George Wallace, awesome. On June 13th, 1967, introduced House Resolution 208, which asked Congress to renounce the validity of the 14th Amendment. Rarick presented historical evidence gathered by Leander H. Perez of Plaquemines Parish, purporting to show that the 14th Amendment was never validly adopted. And then out of curiosity, I wanted to go, okay, who the hell is Leander H. Perez? Well, apparently this guy was like, he was the political boss of he was a major political boss in Louisiana at the time. Yeah, he ran a straight up political machine, was a staunch segregationist as himself, and then he made this argument that they were never properly ratified. So, setting aside where these guys come from, even if what they weren't racist assholes, it was a statement by one member of the House of Representatives. It was not a passed resolution by the entirety of Congress. It was not a passed law by the entirety of Congress that made the statement. So he's lying straight up. Thank you.
Now, what does that mean, Jamal? That means all these separated families that are detained with
So now building upon that lie, he's now making further idiotic declarations.
ICE, all these children that are held in detention camps, which are really prisons, all these people that are being deported based on not having U.S. citizenship, which that U.S. citizenship is based on the 14th Amendment, is unconstitutional. Which means they don't have the de jure capacity to do it. They're doing it under de facto war powers. So if you're so-called, well, if you're South American or from any of the islands and you got family that's held prisoner based on not having United States citizenship, according to the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, make sure you do not get an attorney, because once you get a U.S. attorney, that admits jurisdiction, which means you give them jurisdiction. And 2, make sure you're aware of the 90th Congress, First Session, Volume 113, Part 12, June 12, 1967, page 15641, and all the subsequent pages, which is in Latin is ET space SEQ, which means et sequa, which means and the subsequent pages. It's the Congress, not Jamal Talib Abdullah Bey, not Raza the Moors, not some guy with a turban on, not
You're a liar.
United States Congress, the Congress for the United States of America, the occupying force.
You're a liar. It wasn't Congress. It was a comment. It was a statement by one guy, one member of the House.
Here or North America that's demanding that people get their U.S. citizenship to do anything. They admitted in 1967 that the 14th Amendment is unconstitutional. Go to libraryofcongress.gov and search the proceedings and debates.
Why would something with any level of force and effect and legitimacy be in the proceedings and debates part of the congressional record?
Of the 90th Congress, first, go to volume. It means all these children, all these adults, male, female, that are held in ICE, which is the immigration, what is it?
Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
I don't know. I don't remember what it is off my head, but they're held unconstitutionally. Everyone that has been deported unconstitutionally. So now, since we're dealing with jurisdiction, I'm explaining how, based on the laws of the United States, that the United States has no actual de jure jurisdiction to deport people or demand that they have U.S. citizenship in order for them to come to North America. I'm telling you that the only way that they're able to do that,
being held accountable. P. Barnes.
Hey, Taco, thanks for the $5 super chat. Great job handling the resistance yesterday. I went off yesterday. I could have and should have kept my cool towards the end there. So, thank you for that. I appreciate the kind words, but I feel like I could have been a lot better.
it's because they have this.
Archangel, I can still see you. So you're not blocked. I mean, you're a mod, so you can't be blocked. So I don't know why you're saying you're unable to see anything.
And they're organized. That's it. That's it. That's it. So if anyone from anywhere on the world, on this planet, wants to stop what the U.S. is doing, help the Moors. Help fund the Moors. The Moors that are actually doing things, not the Moors that's playing church and they're saying, "Oh no, we're just religious." And don't help them. Moors. Support them. To get Moors cases dismissed. The Moors that are bringing phones into court, people help them. To be a guy on social media or Article 26 of the United States Code, and bare minimum, and help Moors. Help us reestablish our government so that way we can pay our people, not only pay them, but train them to be our border patrol. So that way, if we see a family trying to come here for a better life, we can make sure that they don't get stopped by no Europeans that have no jurisdiction to even talk.
Again, he's talking about now wanting to have an armed militia to enforce his group,
to them.
his
Help
nationality.
us do that. Help us establish our own courts so that way if we find out that there's European holding innocent children in detention camps because they're not part of their European colony, we can arrest them, issue a warrant, arrest them, and then find them guilty of human trafficking and bring them to our prisons. That's
because they're
jurisdiction.
afraid of being held accountable.
Hey, Baker, thank you for the £14.99 super chat. What you said had to be done. He was aggressive man-child. What, the resistance? I mean, he was like a stubborn asshole who clearly was lacking empathy. So that's what really, got my blood boiling when he just did not understand that what he did was in any way, shape, or form wrong, even in an ethical or moral standpoint. So.
That's what this movement is about. That's what this movement is about. The prophet said, I'm here for the children and yet unborn. There's children, innocent children, that are held in prison because they're not U.S. citizens. Innocent children. When the United States is a collection of European colonies, they're not Americans.
Oh.
So people that are not from here, from North America, they're 3,000 miles away from home. People that are not from here are telling other people who want to come here for a better life that they can't come here unless they submit to their European colony that has expanded across the entire northern continent of America. Now, and they're teaching people that they're the Americans when they're absolutely not. They are descendants of Europeans who are born on American soil. That does not make them Europeans. Just like if there were Europeans.
I assume he meant to say Americans. So basically, again, like I said, he just straight up said that he rejects the concept of birthright citizenship. Yeah, and he favors the idea of bloodline citizenship or ethnic citizenship.
And they were born on Asian soil. That does not make them Asian. Now, of course, you already know, due to the Opium Wars, the British, the Albions, the Europeans have jurisdiction in Hong Kong. But again, that's just more European imperialism. It's just European world.
Not anymore. UK relinquished control of Hong Kong in 97. It's just that China doesn't have full control of Hong Kong yet, even though they really want to. Oh, 1999.
Conquest. It's the new world order. That's all that is. And it's the same thing here. It's just we're taught in their schools that us and them, although they are our fellow man as it relates to humanity, we're not them and they're not us. They're not Americans. They're Europeans, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Again, it's the whole they're the other.
That's just what it is. Just like if a Chinese man comes here, I'm sorry, because y'all Moors are so woke. A Manchurian comes here, you're not American.
Well, he can be. He's not a Native American. He's not a Native Indian, or like in that respect, no. And neither am I. I mean, I think my parents can trace a small smidgen of our ancestry. I don't even know. I'm not even sure about that. I don't think so. But no, he's the man who the Chinese man who immigrates to the United States with his family. can become an American, because again, in normal language, in normal parlance, American is just simply a demonym for a U.S. citizen, just as a Canadian is somebody who is a citizen of Canada. But these guys don't like, they are conflating Native American or Indigenous Americans, I guess maybe even to be more specific. They're conflating Indigenous Americans with American, the demonym for somebody who's a citizen of the United States. He's combining the two into one as meaning the same, as one and the same. When we all know that that's not the case. And I know that if my parents, if my Puerto Rican parents were to have gone to, say, China, right, for example, and I was born in Shanghai, I honestly don't even know how Chinese citizenship works, to be perfectly honest. But let's assume, for the sake of argument, that I was born in Shanghai and they had birthright citizenship. I would be a Chinese national. I wouldn't be ethnically Chinese, obviously, but I would be a citizen of China. But but being a citizen of China doesn't automatically make me ethnically Chinese, because that's the two different things. I do know that in Japan, does not have birthright citizenship. Japan's citizenship is tied. A birthright citizenship is tied to bloodline. You have to be ethnically Japanese in order to have birthright citizenship. I think that's what the law is. You can be a naturalized citizen of Japan, but it's exceedingly difficult to do that. But you don't get birthright citizenship out of that. But yes, Gary, you're right. They are confusing nationality with ethnicity. And once you understand that that's the difficulty that we're going to have, that's the divide, we really can't even go anywhere in a discussion. But whoever sent that super chat, what was it? I'm sorry. Richard Bear, $4.99. Isn't what he's talking about considered sedition? And why didn't the Moors enforce their claim to the land back then? Well, they claim that they lost, I tried to tell them that if you assuming that you were actually here, which again, this is fake revisionist history, but assuming that you were there, you still lost the battle. Just because, and then, yeah.
You're Asiatic? Yeah, I recognize you as my brother, as my fellow Asiatic, but
Shut up, Fortruck.
you're not American. Don't try to act American here. Same thing for these pale-skinned Europeans. They are not Americans, and that's not an insult. It's just the truth. Just because you were born here does not mean you are a American. Just like if I was born in Japan and my parents are not Japanese, I am not Japanese. I was just born in Japan.
Right, but you could... Okay, I agree with that, but again, that's ethnicity. Right, that's ethnicity. But that's not nationality.
Now, since I'm born in Japan, does that give me jurisdiction to say who can and cannot be there?
I mean, if you are lawfully there in Japan when you were born and you were raised in Japan and then eventually become part of an immigration official in Japan, then yeah, you can determine who can and can't be there, even if you are not ethnically Japanese, if you have a position in the government for that. He seems to think that the only Europeans work for the governments of the United States. Like, the only people in positions of power in the United States are Europeans.
Absolutely not. Now, if I'm born in Japan and there's other people that look like me that are born in Japan, and then we say, hey, let's take this motherfucker over, and then we do, does that mean we have the de jure power to tell people what they can and can't do? No. Do we have the de facto power based on us
I
having arms and us being...
I do honestly feel like that Out of the 195 countries in the world, only 30 have birthright citizenship. Well, I didn't know that. Well, you know what? That's what makes us awesome in the United States. So how about that? Take that, motherfuckers. But I do feel like the United States is one of those countries that's in and I would say also Canada is one of those situations where, yes, there's Native Americans, but there's such a small fraction of who who a United States citizen is, but at the same time, everybody could say that nobody. Let's put it this way: nobody would think twice if somebody who looks Japanese says, "I'm an American citizen." And if they say and they're residing in the U.S. and they're a second generation or third generation, they still look ethnically Japanese, but they say I'm an American citizen. I don't think anybody would think twice about that because the United States is that heterogeneous.
Organized and us threatening people and us harassing people, then yeah. So there are many levels of jurisdiction. So when you hear personam jurisdiction, the United States has no jurisdiction over individuals trying to come here, so they have no personam jurisdiction. Then you hear subject matter jurisdiction. The United States has no subject matter jurisdiction over citizenship over people trying to come here. Then there's what? Territorial jurisdiction. The United States has no jurisdiction over the territory of North America, especially in reference to people trying to come here. Then you have air and sea jurisdiction. The United States has no jurisdiction over the airways, the airspace, or the seas, oceans, or lakes surrounding, on, around, within North America. So how are they doing it? They're doing it based on the force of the gun, and that is it. That's it. That is it. Then they're doing things like making statements, okay, if you don't get U.S. citizenship, we're gonna deport you.
Okay, for the record, I thought that I took it for his word that he was a former Marine, but some people said that they've done their homework and done their research, and they claim that he dropped out before completing or washed out before completing boot camp. I don't know if that's true, but that's also something I've heard from other people.
Does that make it right? No. Does that make it lawful? No. It's just something that they're doing. That's it. That's it. There is no, and then they make you submit mentally.
Oh my fucking God. Okay, fine. Fucking, there's no such thing as a former Marine. I get it. Fucking hell. Marines.
By making you think you have to go through this paperwork process to be recognized by them, when it's really just you submitting to their powers. It's just you saying, I'm not gonna resist what you have going on. I'm not gonna interfere with your colony. I'm not gonna interfere with how you're treating the Aboriginal Moors here. I'm not gonna interfere with that. That's all that's saying. That's it. An example of that is when you read Title 22, when you look up passports, because all these Moors keep saying, if you put your bay on the passport, it's going to cancel their jurisdiction, because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Excuse my language. They're afraid to admit that our homeland is colonized and there's nothing we can do about it except fight.
And that's the kicker of this entire live stream. What do you mean by fight? Because you already have and already will mock most people in the stream, mock people who try to go through the courts, who try to go through paperwork, who try to go through other non-violent means to get what they want. But I want to know what you mean by fight.
They don't want to admit that. So they're going to make statements like that. But if you read the Title 22 on U.S. passports, it says no passport shall be issued to anyone, whether they're a U.S. citizen or not, unless you have allegiance to the United States, which is what? Homage and fealty, which is what? The feudal system. By you having allegiance to them, you're not going to challenge anything they say. That's what that is. That's all that is. That's it. That's jurisdiction. Any questions? They're not going to stop based on the information that you have. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Sinbad Bay for president. Facts. So someone said, if I just heard you correctly, you want to get a large group of Moors together to fight against an existing government via weapons to garner land and freedom. No, that is not what I said
Then what did you say?
at all. That's not what I implied at all.
Then what were you implying by saying fight?
I just made a few statements and
Bullshit. That is a fucking cop-out. And you know it.
whatever you put together in your head, that's what you did.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. You don't get to cop out like that. You don't get to fucking cop out like that by saying, oh, I just made some statements. Oh, you're just interpreting what I said. Fuck you. You need to clarify then what you meant by fight. Because it sounded to me, and it sounds to me, that you want to use force of violence. You want to use force and violence to ensure that your nation is left alone or isn't being imposed upon by this de facto European Union colonizer government. You're going to have to clarify. Bunch of dead air.
We would need a more... Any questions on jurisdiction? How can we create our own passport? We would need a Moorish government for that. Not only a Moorish government, but when you say or hear Moorish government, that includes a military.
See what I'm saying in my title of my stream? That's saying this guy is basically advocating for full-on separatism.
Because no nation on this planet,
If not a straight-up ethno-state.
has any government structure without people there put in place to protect their laws, their people, their national interest, their national assets. It goes hand in hand. We don't have to fight anybody. We actually don't have to physically fight anyone. All we have to do is train, prepare, and show the world, not one individual country or nation or whatever, show the world what every other nation is showing the world. We will protect ourselves. That's it. Every nation.
And then when the Providence Police Department picks up one of your friends up for a traffic stop and arrests him on a suspended license, what are you going to do?
Just Google search. If you Google search Chinese military parade, Korean military parade, Russian military parade, British military parade, United States military parade, they're showing you, for our country, we will die. Are they threatening anyone? No. Are they saying, let's get a collection of Chinese people to overthrow a pre-established government? Nope.
Yes, you are.
They're saying, if you...
Or you're not trying to overthrow the de facto government, but you are saying that you will use force of arms to stop the enforcement of that de facto government. That is going to involve violence.
Try to interfere.
And based on your previous videos, you are talking about full-on armed conflict
with our human rights. our national rights, our natural rights, our universal rights, our religious rights, whatsoever, we will blow you the fuck up. That's what Chinese are saying. That's what the Russians are saying. That's what the Koreans are saying. That's what the United States is saying.
Yeah.
So now, if I say, Morris, we need to protect ourselves, why am I the bad guy?
Because you don't have a state. You are deluded into this idea that you are an indigenous member that is not a part of the country that you're living in or residing in right at that moment. And you are saying that you do not have to follow the laws of the jurisdiction that you're residing in. And you are willing to use violence to enforce that. That's what makes you the bad guy. You are saying that you are going to use force of arms to ensure that the de facto colony European Union does not enforce any laws against you.
So if anyone talks about any Moorish government and they're not talking about a way to protect our national interest, they're not talking about Moorish government. They're talking about a group of people that's going to sing Kumbaya and act like everything is fine. Meanwhile, our people are being assassinated.
Fascinated.
That's jurisdiction. So someone's asking questions like, how big is the military? What defines a military? Army of one. Google it.
Army of one?
Someone said, fight with pen and paper. How do presidents go to war? By signing a piece of paper? No, they do not go to war by signing a piece of paper. They go to war by sending men with guns wherever they want to send them, stupid. That's how they go to war, you dummy. Let's be serious. Let's be serious. Now, they relay information with paper. They relay information, yes they do. But they don't go to war by writing on a document. They go to war by sending armed men and women to fight. That's war, not paper. Let's stop. So that fires me up because that's silly. That's what I'm saying. It's a part of it, but that's not war. That's just relaying information that, okay, we're going to war now. That's what that is. That's all that is. The actual war is the men and women that have already been trained with the guns and they already have the Department of Justice budget to pay scientists to, advanced technology, to have jet airplanes with stealth technology and all that crap. That's actual war. So if you think pieces of paper is war, don't talk to me. Just leave this video right now. Because you're gonna get us murdered. Let's use our brains. Let's stop being so passive aggressive. Let's stop being so afraid. No one's saying we have to go to war with anybody. I'm saying we need to be willing to defend ourselves, which means we have to train now. If you're hearing go to war with someone, that's because you are thinking that. Not because what I'm saying. That's because you're not listening.
I shouldn't have said anything. If I did, I retract that. My point is that you're willing to use force of violence, force of arms to prevent the enforcement of the established laws of the local, state, and federal government to which you reside in.
To be clear,
which is, and you are explicitly rejecting the authority of those government entities.
establishing our own has nothing.
I mean, that's a textbook for domestic terrorism.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with overthrowing anyone else's crap. I don't want anything to do with anyone else's crap. What I want is our own Moorish government. The same
Exactly. You want your own Moorish ethno-state.
way you see the little Indians with their own little Indian government, even though it's fake. So think in your mind, not fake, but something like that. You understand what I'm saying? Just like you see the Haitians with their own government, just like you see the Brazilians with their own government.
Yes, but Brazil is recognized by others. That's how a nation state is able to be legitimized, by recognition by its peers, by other nation states. Brazil, Haiti, the Native American reservations are all, Yeah, he just said tribal governments are fake. The tribal governments in the reservations are recognized by the federal government. They're recognized by others besides themselves. I mean, for fuck's sake, look at Taiwan. Taiwan is a perfect example. Or Chinese Taipei. Taiwan is only officially recognized by like 6 countries, I think. Like 6 to 12 countries explicitly. The United States officially does not recognize Taiwan, but they have plenty of fucking separate trade agreements with them. In fact, to go back to your previous discussion, the United States de facto recognizes Taiwan as an independent country. But but I mean, you go to Chechnya. That's another example there. The fucking Tamil Tigers in Sri Lanka. Aren't they another one who's trying to advocate separatism or something like that? For fuck's sake, the Basque terrorists in Spain. ETA or ETA. I forget how you pronounce them.
Just like you see the Japanese with their own government, and you see the Chinese with their own government, and you see...
Yeah, that's the thing. Taiwan says that they're the actual, official recognized. They're the real government of mainland China. But what happened in the 1970s? The United States said that we're going to recognize them as an independent, as a state.
The Ghanaians with their own government. Moors should have their own government. This has nothing to do with overthrowing anybody. And if you think someone's overthrowing anyone, it's the United States overthrew the Moorish Empire.
Everybody else.
Government. The Japanese with their own government, and you see the Chinese with their own government, and you see, the Ghanaians with their own government. Moors should have their own government. This has nothing to do
with what territory? What recognized territory? They all have recognized geographic territory. So what is your territory? If you say North America, that's not going to happen, motherfucker.
Overthrowing anybody. And if you think someone's overthrowing anyone, it's the United States overthrew the Moorish Empire.
Yeah! That's what happens when one entity conquers another.
Everybody else.
The United States overthrew everyone else.
Okay.
The United States, European individuals are committing coups in other people's nations.
Now you're getting into U.S. foreign policy, which is irrelevant to the current discussion.
The United States,
it's a complete fucking red herring or non sequitur.
Assassinating leaders. They're bombing countries. They're sending in covert agents to murder people. People infiltrate and they're committing espionage. That's what they're doing. Don't try to put that shit on me. I'm not having nothing to do with that. That's what those people are doing. I'm saying my people have the right to have their own government and have the right to not have people over them.
Again, having a recognized government involves having a recognized territorial jurisdiction. If you can't figure that one out, or if you try to claim that it's the whole of North America, yeah, you're never going to get anywhere, and then we're going to have conflict.
Especially on their own homeland. So if you think that...
Because if you're going to sit here and say that you want to reside within the territory of the United States, but still be subject to somebody else's laws, that's not going to happen. That's not how it works.
That's overthrowing anybody. That's your own mental issue. That's your own mental problems. That's your own incompetency. That's your own lack of understanding of what's happening here in North America. It has nothing to do with what I said or what I'm doing.
Europeans do have the right to overthrow the United States government if they wanted to.
Yeah, but we're not
That's their
talking about.
government.
Yeah, I'm
That
not
might
talking
just to
about
be clear,
them.
because that's what people think. Like, you know.
Like I said, that's because their own misunderstanding, their own. That's them. That has nothing to do with Moorish Americans, Moorish belief, nothing. Look up House Resolution of the 97th General Assembly of the State of Illinois, 0689. It says we have the right to form our own government, and we're Aboriginal and Indigenous to North, South, and Central America. So what does that have to do with overthrowing anyone? Absolutely nothing. Look up House Resolution 1203 from the state of Georgia. It says the same thing. What does that have to do with overthrowing anyone? Absolutely nothing. It's just there's going to be agents and trolls from different alphabetical organizations of different entities on North America that are in comments to provoke that type of thinking and make us seem like we're anti-government, and we're not. We're actually trying to establish our own government, which means we're pro-government. But they're trying to cause confusion. Or another the treaty, should we turn?
Oh God, here's the treaty.
Someone says, since they do not honor none of the treaty, should we turn our back on the Albions and do for ourselves? If they honored it, and if they
Albion.
didn't, we should already have that. There should no be, well, since they're not honoring the treaty, should we turn our backs on them? Nah, we should. It's not about turning our back. It's about we should already be doing for self. And if we were doing for self, then they would be honoring the treaty, because we'd have a military to ensure that they keep the peace, just like every other nation on this planet. We're the only ones without it, because we're the only ones playing nigger games and playing church games and playing black games and playing Spanish games and playing Indian games. We're the only ones doing it.
Yeah, he dropped an N-bomb. I missed that one. Hopefully I won't get screwed over. Again, the reservations have their tribal police, they have their tribal courts, they have their but it's all centralized in the designated territory. Again, we can have a long ass discussion about the nature of colonialism and what the United States did to the Native Americans and the fairness of these reservations in general. But the current standing is that these the moment a member of the tribe leaves the reservation, they become subject to the local laws of the surrounding area.
If you want to open a Rise of the Moors temple, go to riseofthemoors.org and fill it. There's no problem with individualism. You're supposed to be an individual. It's just we don't want to come together because we think that our opinion or our viewpoint it overpowers another individual, and that's not how it works. Look at the Congress for the United States. Every representative and every senator has their own opinion, and then they propose their opinion called a bill, and they get supported by other representatives and other senators, and if a majority vote.
And notice how the opinion that you try to cite as binding law or a binding declaration was never agreed upon by the rest of Congress.
Agrees to that bill, and that's what they do. We don't want to do that. We don't want to compromise. We just want, well, this is what I want. I want it this way, and that's it. And if it's not that, then it's not government. And that's not how government works. We don't have patience with each other. And we also allow any Tom, Dick, and Harry that says more and says anything slightly different, we recognize them as leaders when they're absolutely not. Based on Noble Drew Ali standard, not based on my opinion. Do proclamations need to be witnessed by Moors? It depends on what you believe a Moor is. But anyone can witness your documents because they're just witnesses. They're not party to the document. Yeah, they don't have to be declared Moors because their bloodline, if they're your mom or dad and they're Moorish, then they're Moors. It doesn't matter if they, it matters if they declare it or not, but if they sign it, they're still Moors. So a Moor is still signing it. They're just unconscious.
Unconscious Moors is another thing.
Why are they labeling us terrorists? The only people that label Moors terrorists are part of the FBI and the CIA and other alphabet organizations that the Roman Inquisition has established to war against us.
Roman Inquisition? What?
So since they know that the people have gone to their schools and
What?
people's minds are yielding to their molding hand, they know that if they put a scary label on people that have never committed any violence against them, then the masses of the people are going to be against them, even though those people are trying to help. That's what Malcolm X said. Malcolm X basically said the image-making role of the press will have the oppressor, looking like the oppressed, and the oppressed looking like the oppressor. The press will have you believing anything. That's all that is to cause confusion in your mind, so that way you see people like me and you think terrorist, or you hear the word Moorish American and you think terrorist. That's all that is. It's a war. It's war. That's it. It's info wars. It's the war on information. So other than the Moorish Defense League, should Moors in the individual territories form militias? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Form militias, y'all.
Someone said, I assume it was a question. What is the proper next step to consolidate like minds? How do we progress in potency? So if you look at the early 1900s, you'll see, what was it, the Great Migration is what they call it? When there was a bunch of Asiatics in the South, they moved to the North, and look at what Noble Drew Ali was able to accomplish based on people moving there. So if people have like minds, they should relocate to where each other are, so that way they can do things. But a lot of people don't want to make that sacrifice.
Don't talk to us about militias.
Because Rome
Fucking hell, Pope.
has us complacent with, our little Section 8 and our little stimulus check and our little job and our little house, and we're barely scraping money up to make it by every month, and then we feel good because we made it, and then we just repeat that cycle. So we don't want to. We're just complacent. That's really what it is. There's a lot of people that's born in America, but Moors are indigenous and aboriginal to North, South, and Central America, and we are not Indians. Indians is just another brand that the European colonizer called us.
Well, I mean, he's not entirely wrong. Indian is just a misnomer given by the European explorers who thought they found India, and so the name ended up sticking. But, right, it's more appropriate, I guess, to say Native American or Indigenous Americans.
To separate us.
Rather than Indians or Native Indians.
The next step when courts ignoring writs and affidavits, it depends. It depends on your point of view. If you believe in their system, then according to their rules, if you don't agree with what the court's doing, you file an appeal or removal to federal court. And then if you don't like what they said, you file an appeal to the Court of Appeals. And if you don't like what they said, then you file an appeal to the United States Supreme Court. And if you don't like what they said, well, then you should have your own government.
So, separatism.
What do you think of the NFAC? Any way of linking with them? Maybe help them legally. I'm willing to help any more that's actually for the upliftment of our people. I think that the NFAC would be more impactful if they would actually train as a militia instead of just having little display events of a bunch of strangers coming together, because they're not organized, so they're not a militia. They have no discipline, so they're not a militia.
Well, I have no idea what the NFAC is. If you guys can clarify to me, I have no idea what that acronym means.
They're not trained. And I'm not talking about individuals aren't trained. I'm talking about the collective. They're not trained. They haven't trained together them from the standard of an actual functioning military, and they're nowhere near that. I would love for them to be, for them to train and for them to have an actual ranking system and for them to, teach fundamentals of marksmanship and, combat training and all that kind of stuff. That would be great. We need that. But they're not there. They're not at that level which they should be.
Huh. I honestly never heard of them.
Yeah, I'll just stop there. I think you're talking about the training videos as far as like militia. I have training videos on the YouTube channel already.
Yeah, you do.
And remember, I'm just one person, and there's a lot of people that contact us. We just had a baby. I'm just one person, so I guess it's
Oh my God, you procreated.
impossible for me to answer everyone and get to everyone. That's why I said, I'm gonna cut back on doing these videos, which I have, and I'm only gonna deal with Rise of the Moors temples, which there's a lot of people filling out the Rise of the Moors application, and I've been helping them because my goal is to form an organization that's gonna actually help our people. The only way to do that is to be organized. The only way to do that is to have some type of standard of who gets my attention. Thank you. That's what this.
Look up the term stochastic terrorism, the incitement to violent acts, but not themselves. It's what they're doing.
That's the only way. You know what I mean? That's the only way. How can I free myself from the documents I unwillingly signed? Well, if you're talking about things like the birth certificate, you were forced. You didn't even sign that, first of all. That has nothing to do.
Archangel for Truth. How is the Constitution established by 13 colonies? States or colonies a requirement for the other 37 states subject to it if these states have their own sovereignty? Well, the part of the deal, Archangel, for those other 37 states is that they would adhere to the Constitution. I'm fairly certain that's part of the deal to become part of the States United is to adhere to the Constitution.
With you, anything.
I thought that would be pretty obvious.
This is why more say study
as a condition of admission.
Because this is a very neophyte question. There's nothing wrong with the question. It's just I can tell you're in the early stages of awakening, which is fine. That's great. But there should be other people that can answer that question for you, is what my point is. I'm still going to answer it, but that's my whole point with the Rise of the Moors organization, because there's going to be a study period so where, you don't have to ask me any of those questions because I already get more experience. And with it is don't rescind all contracts. Already void.
Oh, the whole contractual rescission
not by
thing.
being told. So a lot of people are going to try to, I'm going to try to change my name at the job. And then they're not thinking. They stop saying that you have a question.
Good night, Alto.
Ask the question. Not offering anything. What are you talking about? What about a temple here in Texas? I would love to have a Rise of the Moors temple in Texas. I just need people to be willing to take on the responsibility of administrating a Rise of the Moors temple out there. That's it. Go to riseofthemoors.org. Oh, yeah. This person probably has a mental issue, so try not to be mean to them.
Rude.
Where in any constitution it mentions DCYF.
Wait.
Why is DCYF unconstitutional?
Okay. if I recall, in Rhode Island, DCYF is an acronym for the Department of Children, Youth, and Families in Rhode Island. Wazoo can probably confirm that for me. What's up, Wazoo? Yeah, DCYF is the our Division of Children, Youth, and Families, or Department of Children, Youth, and Families in Rhode Island.
That's a great question. Show me where in any constitution it mentions DCYF.
It doesn't need to be. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. So he's one of these motherfuckers. So apparently Department of Transportation doesn't exist. Department of State doesn't exist, or can't exist. Department of Defense can't exist. Department of War can't exist from back in the olden days. The founders did not need to explicitly state everything that a government can establish to effectuate its duties.
Since it's not in the Constitution, that makes it not or unconstitutional.
Oh, shut the fuck up, you fucking idiot! They also said, it also doesn't say that you're allowed to own a fucking semi-automatic rifles or pistols or even revolvers. You adhere to that too, motherfucker? Oh, I fucking hate it. I hate it when a lot of like Sovs and a lot of hardcore libertarians make this own fucking argument. Yeah, thank you, Pope. Murder is not explicitly proscribed in the Constitution. Does that make murder, the prohibition against murder, unconstitutional? Is this guy fucking serious? I think he is.
In a case if you have an attorney already. Well, if you have an attorney, then you're admitting jurisdiction. And if you have an attorney, that means the court's not obligated to speak to you at all. They're only obligated to speak to the attorney.
Well, yeah, that's why you hire an attorney for.
So the only way to win is to have a good attorney. In order to have a nationality card, do you have to be part of a temple in your area? No. You don't have to belong to any organization to have an
Devin, I wouldn't call this guy a guru because I don't think he sells all that much, to be perfectly honest. I put him more of the extremist, an actual like full-on extremist category.
Nationality card.
Extremist true believer card category.
Well, how is the United States de facto and they are part of the Constitution? The Constitution is their document. The word de facto just simply means in fact. So in fact, the Europeans doing business as the United States is here in North America. That's a fact. That's a fact. Just because they have a constitution and they're here on North America does not mean they have the right or the de jure capacity to deport people.
Also, there was a coup.
No, de facto means what he says. It means in fact. It's supposed to distinguish from de jure, which means in law.
Yeah. And like she said, there was a coup in 1861. You can go to
Again, apparently there was a coup d'etat in 1861. What, you mean the fucking Civil War? A coup d'etat from who?
Library of Congress.gov, LOC.gov, and look up the newspapers around the time of 1860 to 1864, and you'll see that they admit that there was a coup d'etat within Congress, within the United States European Union. A coup d'etat is an internal overthrow. So the same way that the United States has been trying to assassinate President Nicolas Maduro Moro in Venezuela to overthrow the Venezuelan government is the same thing that happened to them in 1861 via European Inquisitionists over
European
in Europe.
Inquisitionists?
They came to North America, infiltrated the United States colonies, and overthrew it, which is what the Civil War was about. Newspapers around the time of 1860 to 1864, and you'll see that they admit that there was a coup d'etat within Congress, within the United States European Union.
Explain what that is.
A coup d'etat is an internal overthrow. So the same way that the United States has been trying to assassinate President Nicolas Maduro Moro in Venezuela to overthrow the Venezuelan government is the same thing that happened to them in 1861 via European Inquisitionists over in Europe. They came to North America, infiltrated the United States colonies, and overthrew it, which is what the Civil War was about.
So the Civil War was not about the southern states seceding from the Union over the election of Abraham Lincoln, a Republican abolitionist, to the presidency, but was a coup d'état, an attempted coup d'état by European Inquisitionists who came across the ocean to overthrow the then legitimate United States government.
I thought you were saying that they were fake. No. De facto doesn't mean fake. The word de facto simply means in fact. So in fact, they're here. In fact, they're throwing our people in jail. In fact, they're deporting people. In fact, they're murdering people. In fact, they're bombing countries. In fact, they're what else are they doing? They're conducting biological warfare against civilian population. In fact, they're using.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Omega Gamer, again, this guy is talking about how there was an overthrow, that the United States has been operating in a de facto capacity since 1861, etc., etc. But then at the same time, with the way he talks, he doesn't even recognize the European colonies in the first place. So why doesn't he simply say that the European colonies in the Constitution and the United States formed at 1791 was de facto? So what's the point of saying it in 1861 if you don't even acknowledge their legitimacy in the first place? So again, he doesn't make any fucking sense.
Military tactics against
on top of everything else that he doesn't make sense on.
Civilian population. So that's all de facto means. De facto literally translates to in fact. That's it. These human beings aren't fake. They're physically here and they're really destroying people's lives. For me to say that they're fake is for me to be delusional, probably mentally ill, something like that. So someone said de facto means in fact without lawful sanction. So the second half excuse me, of your statement, without lawful sanction, is adding context. The word de facto simply literally translates into in fact. That's it. Once you apply context, then you can say without lawful sanction. Do we sell fezzes? No, we don't. It's your knowledge that'll save you. Exactly. Yep. Well, if in fact that they're here, don't you think that you have to go through their courts in order to change the records that they have of you? Why? The Chinese people are here too, so do you think you have to go to the Chinese people to change the records that they have on you?
No. But then again, China is not, other than the embassy, is not doesn't have a recognized jurisdictional territory in the United States. If I were to go to China, And if I needed some issues changed there, then I'd go to China. But Moors and the Moorish nation is not a recognized entity. It's not a recognized state. So your analogy is bullshit. And what I
Have you
should
ever
have
heard
said
of
to
a
the
common
canon
law
land
name
Moors.
change? Have you ever heard of the Declaration on Human Rights, the rights of indigenous people? Have you ever heard of these documents that declare that
Shut up, Rodent. You know what I'm talking
you
about.
don't have to submit to anybody to do anything? Have you ever heard
There's also Little Italy. There's also Koreatown.
of the
There's also Little
United
Tokyo.
States case Cruden versus Neal, where they said all men are independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature? He's not bound by any institutions formed by his fellow men without his consent.
Spanish Harlem.
The United States said that. So why would you go to their, if they said that, why would you go to them to change your name or to change anything if they said that? You get it?
No, I don't get it.
If you have the right to open up your refrigerator, why would you go to them to ask them, can I open up my refrigerator?
Because nobody recognizes your refrigerator as yours. You claim that that refrigerator is yours, but it's not. That's the problem with your analogy.
That's why the prophet said, if I can just get you to think, you would save yourself.
Miami is a Cuban ethno-state.
Why are the new modern day Egyptians claiming that we weren't the people of Egypt? That's because the modern day Egyptians, a lot of them are really European puppets.
Professor Hacks, thank you for the $2 super chat. This amount of stupid should be illegal.
That's just the truth. If you were born on their slave ship and you're trying to get off, you have to go through their procedure to get off. How? If you could just jump off the ship. Now, if you recognize them as your slave master, then of course, go through them. Go through their process, of course. Show me the common law name change. Look it up. How am I going to show you something that's online? Look it up. I can't
You can help with the link.
show you anything. Look, common law name change, you see it? Wars need to know the answers to, so that's fine that they're trolling. I don't care.
Don't worry, we're almost done, guys. Then we're gonna have to stop.
That's fine. The letter that the Archbishop wrote Donald Trump, and he talks about the Pope's magic circle and the deep church and the deep state.
Okay, he posted an earlier video talking about that, and it is actually written by an archbishop who has lost several positions of authority because he's kind of went nuts. He was a whistleblower, but then he went kind of nuts on his own, and now he's gone full conspiratard. Yeah.
And then look up concepts you may not have heard of, and then you can do further research on them. That's all. Any more
He won't debate, Fizzy. He won't. Not a chance.
online teaching, that's all their job is to introduce you to topics you may or may not have been aware of, so that way you can do further research on them. That's it. On jurisdiction, because I'm about to end it.
Yeah, we're about finishing up here.
If there's no questions on jurisdiction, I will end the video. Fact or actually, but illegal or illegitimate. So now they're adding context. In fact, there's a gun in my hand. Is it illegal? The only way to determine if it's illegal is to add context. Context would be, okay, if it's stolen, if I'm a criminal, that would determine if it's illegal or not.
I mean, he's not wrong, I guess, in that respect.
The fact that it's there does not mean it's illegal or legal. It just means it's there. This is the fact. It's in fact.
You're right. In fact, there's a gun in your hand. Is if whether or not it's illegally in your hand depends on the context. So he's not entirely incorrect there. But what, you're saying he's a felon? Oh shit. If he is a felon, then well, I guess also in fact he is illegally possessing a firearm.
Fact. What do you? The word "fact" is in facto. Who do you? What is this? Come on, Morse. Let's be serious. Does the IRS have jurisdiction to force you to pay them? Not according to United States laws.
Yes, it does. Oh yeah, he also buys into the tax protester arguments too. By the way,
Look up.
he thinks the income tax is voluntary.
Look up Title 26 of the United States Code, subsection 601.602, and you'll see that taxes are voluntary.
No, they expect the citizens to voluntarily file. They don't. Oh my god. Okay, I'm done.
So if it's voluntary, no one can force you to do anything because it's voluntary. Then look up Title 26 of the Code of Federal Regulations. It's like 34.6 something, something, something. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it states that the tax obligation is on the employer, not the employee. Whether or not they take it from your... It doesn't matter if they take it from your paycheck. The employer is still responsible for the taxes.
They're responsible for withholding. They're responsible for withholding. You are still responsible for filing. You still have to file. It's just that the reason why it's voluntary is that the U.S. government is not going to breathe down your neck to make sure you file. Oh my God.
Then if you look up... Never mind, that should be enough. I've already done videos on this.
No, we're done. We're pretty much done here. Don't worry. Yeah, we're about 30 seconds from finishing up.
All right, Moore's. Peace.
And that's the end of that. So the long and short of it is, this guy, okay, this guy, is trying to say he's not in favor of overthrowing the government, okay? But he wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to have a Moorish ethno-state, but to only with its own government and be subject to only to its laws while still residing in the territories of the U.S. with the recognized territories of the United States. And by recognize, I don't just mean the United States itself, but the territory that's recognized by Canada, by Mexico, and 100 some odd plus other nation states around the globe. So
because they're afraid of being held accountable. P. Barnes.
Hey, Alvin, with the $5 super chat. Already, please do a breakdown on Taj Tariq Bey, dude. Fuck that. I nearly had an aneurysm when he decided to inject himself into a traffic stop in Philadelphia a couple years back. The amount of wall of text, stream of consciousness nonsense that vomited out of his mouth just in that 30-minute traffic stop was enough to make me want to find Jesus. Okay? That's how bad it was. So I don't know if I'm ever going to actually do a a breakdown. Look, I might do a breakdown of that video in and of itself, but I am never ever going to do a breakdown of Taj proper, even though there are a ton of his videos out there, because there's so much to debunk and unpack with each fucking sentence that he says that it would take me an eternity to do a breakdown of this guy. So I might do that traffic stop, and that's it. I might do that traffic stop. But yeah, we're done here, guys. Thank you for watching. I've also have been following his Rise of the Moors court case. I actually downloaded the court case for my own reading for future use. Thank you guys again for watching. Much appreciated. What, 141 beats per minute or 141 viewers? Probably my heart rate. Yeah. So thank you guys for watching. I will probably try to stream some video games to give myself a breather tomorrow, and come back to this channel on Thursday for Taj's traffic stop. So we'll see what happens there. Thanks guys for watching. I'm much appreciated. Thank you guys for the super chats and all your support. Have a good Have a good night. Stay safe. Adios. Ugh.